Hello, welcome back to Galactic Reviews. Recently, I watched the movie Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3. This is the final part of the Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths movies. It's the third and final part, and I'm glad it's over. The thing I liked about this part was very much is something that was actually done in the second part as well, was the character interactions that were kind of not part of the main plot line at all and were kind of just on the sideline, things that were just fun, like Commandy speaking to, I believe it was Nightshade, about his planet being destroyed. Just little things like that. Green Arrow and Black Canary kind of having banter, the losers talking with Lois Lane, which I didn't expect to see at all, but I thought was good. I think that was good. And the other thing that was really good was the explanation as to how the old DC animated movie universe sort of became this multiverse through the John Constantine and Dr. Fate, trying to figure out how this came to be and how to fix this. That way the Anti-Monitor stops killing a whole bunch of worlds. There was a lot more things I thought that were just meh, things that were okay, not good, but not bad. The death of Supergirl, I didn't think was bad, but I didn't think it was good either. The death of Supergirl and death of Wonder Woman was okay. I think it was hurt more so in twofold with those two characters in particular. With Wonder Woman, it's more so that we don't get a whole bunch with that character. I think maybe only two movies, and technically only one movie, but we do have a second one where she's mainly brainwashed trying to figure out how to get out of this war world. But the other movie was in the Justice Society World War II movie, and that's about it. Same can be said for Supergirl. The only movie that we have with her is the Legion of Superheroes movie, and that's also it, besides this three parts, and we really don't get a whole bunch with them. So I think that, and I know what they were trying to do, especially with the Supergirl and Wonder Woman. Well, with the Supergirl death and the Wonder Woman death, they were trying to mimic what had happened in the comic book. They were trying to adapt what was done in the comic book, and it wasn't near as good. The comic book was what better fleshed out as far as like who the Monitor is, who the Anti-Monitor is, why everything's happening the way it is. These characters, when they died, it impacted you because you thought, oh, they for real died. They weren't coming back. Barry Allen didn't come back for a long while, not until I think about Final Crisis. He made cameos, or he made appearances. I think the only appearance I can think of was when Bart Allen was taking on Superboy Prime in Infinite Crisis, but that's the only one I can think of where Barry Allen just makes an appearance, other than his uncanonized sort of remembrance character from the Marvel universe. That's about all I can remember of Barry Allen actually making an appearance for like at least 15 years or close to it. So he was for real, like, gone. Supergirl, I think, made an appearance back in like I want to say sometime in the mid to late 90s. So she does come back. And so does Wonder Woman. She comes back in, I think it's the Legends arc. That's her technically canonical first appearance after she was sent back in time in the comic book adaptation, even though a lot of the characters thought she died, as one of the last acts by the Anti-Monitor in the comic book adaptation. Now, in the comic book or in the movie, it seems like whatever they have planned forward, all these same characters are going to appear, or I would presume so. Because if that not being the case, then we no longer have Flash, we no longer have Supergirl, we no longer have Wonder Woman. There is no Justice Society characters that will be in there. So I'm assuming that that's not going to be the case, but I could be wrong, and those characters could legitimately not be in any of this medium in the next universe to come. But yeah, I understand what they were doing with those deaths of Supergirl and Wonder Woman, but they didn't really work out as well. They didn't have the backstory of the last 50 years and build up character for the last 50 years. Instead, we only got maybe we only got like one movie a piece ish, and they went heavy on Supergirl in the Crisis, and doing so kind of left a bad taste in your mouth when she's the reason why the Monitor chose to help try to save the world. And it's not good. Whereas in the comic book, he actually was. I was wrong in part one. I hadn't read it in a while, but in part one, he was actually born. Him and the Anti-Monitor were kind of born with a duality. One was in the antimatter, one was in the positive matter, negative matter, positive matter. They fought it out. That's a very brief and summary of the comic book. There's a lot more going on in it and a lot more going on with it. Highly recommend you read that. I will try to keep the comparisons to a minimum, because if I do that, this will be a lot longer than it needs to be. Another thing that I thought was kind of just okay was Lois Lane was in this a lot more than I thought she needed to be. I thought her character was all right. I didn't hate her, but I just didn't see a reason as to why she was there most of the time. Most of the time with her journalistic stuff, I was most of the time thinking, you know what? The Question could have done that. I get kind of what they were going for with her character being there, more involved, was to kind of show the stakes that Clark had, whereas Supergirl, for like order for Supergirl to make that sacrifice that really wasn't as well done as her sacrifice in the comic book adaptation. So it's kind of an interesting way of portraying that, but that's the way they did it. I'll probably think of some more things that were okay. The more I think about this movie, more okay-ish things I'll think of, but I'll go ahead and go to the bad. Some of the bad things that happened in this was the way that they explained the Anti-Monitor and the multiverse. They explained the multiverse as a bacteria and the Anti-Monitor as a white blood cell, essentially curing the disease, which curing the universe of this disease, which was the multiverse, as that's not the way it was intended. They show you this after they defeat they defeat the Anti-Monitor that had been plaguing them for the whole time. And then after they defeat that Anti-Monitor, a whole bunch of Anti-Monitors just show up. So it felt more like a cop-out than anything else. It felt more like a cop-out and a crappy explanation for everything, because not only does that not explain the whole thing that happened with Psycho Pirate in part 2. I think at the end of part 2, where Psycho Pirate is talking to the Anti-Monitor and he ends up joining sides with the Anti-Monitor, that then brings no explanation to the Anti-Monitor if he's just essentially just nothing more than a white blood cell doing his job. That then makes no sense. But then also on top of that, why weren't there more of them? If this was already starting to become more of a problem, why wasn't there more of them there instead of just the one? Also, on top of that, what is the Monitor then? If the Anti-Monitor is essentially just nothing more than a white blood cell trying to cure everything, what does that make the Monitor? Like the Monitor is never given an explanation. Martian Manhunter and the War World, along with Adam Strange, his daughter, Lobo, they all show up to help defeat the Anti-Monitor at the end. And while that is a cool callback to the previous movie, Justice League War World, it's a very, very complicated and it's a very, very weird way of explaining a lot of things, of trying to, it's not the way it should have been done, because War World blew up, and the way that they say that get out of it is by saying, no, what you saw was a Zeta beam, and it was definitely not a Zeta beam. It just another thing that just seems like another cop out, just randomly like a cop out. Like it's a horrible explanation. It honestly felt like a lot of the stuff they got to the end and were like, what do we do? And kind of the story went to the wall after that. I don't like the way that they handled Superman and Kara. Like with Kara wanting to do with making the ultimate sacrifice. I think that could have been better done. I also think that not enough delineation between all the characters that have the power of absorbing the sun to then fire it back at the Anti-Monitor, because I had just read the Crisis on Infinite Earths, and knowing that the female Dr. Light absorbs the sun and shoots it into the Anti-Monitor at I think the last issue. I was thinking that's where they were going with that. Turns out, no, they were going to give it to, they were going to make Superman absorb the sun, essentially become the godlike Superman, and then destroy Anti-Monitor. And instead, they gave that to and then Kara fights over him really quick, doesn't even give him a choice, just, says, I'm doing this, even though everybody agreed he was doing this. I understand what they were going for. I think that could have been executed better, but I understood what they were going for with her saying that she no longer has a place. She no longer has the life she wanted, or the world that she knew with the Legion of Superheroes died. That's not really given a good explanation either when they all disappear and supposedly die in part one, but it is understandable as to why she then wants to sacrifice herself, because she thinks she has nothing left to live for, whereas he has a life and stuff to look forward to in life after this, whereas she does not. I understand that sort of what they were going for as far as like her wanting to take a sacrifice, just that they could have gone about it in a much better way, and this was poorly done. John Stewart, well, they've already dissed Hal Jordan. They didn't even bring in Guy Gardner or Kyle Rayner, and then they say that John Stewart's the best Green Lantern of all. Okay, he's a good Green Lantern, but the best one was definitely Hal Jordan. The best one is arguably Hal Jordan. John Stewart and Guy Gardner are kind of like their own takes. Some would argue Kyle Rayner. That's fine, but he wasn't necessarily just chosen by the ring. He was essentially just given the ring by Ganthet because he happened to be in the alleyway that he dropped in. I know that this John Stewart kind of steals the storyline from Kyle Rayner and how he becomes Green Lantern. There's a lot of things that are really, really horribly done in this multiverse, and I'm kind of glad it's ended. I'm still not looking. I'm hoping that they do a better job in the foreseeable animated movie universe that they have coming down the pipeline. I don't know whether or not it's going to be good or bad. It's coming down the pipeline. So who knows if it's even coming down the pipeline? This could be them saying, yeah, we're done. No more animated movie stuff. This is it. This is it. And which might be the case because now everything is going to be in a James Gunn universe, which might be why everything ended the way it did. Maybe that's it. I have no idea. If that's the case, then that makes sense on like a standpoint of why they wanted to hurry out and get this out as quick as possible and end it quick. Man, that still sucks. They could have done a good job with a lot of the stuff, and it wasn't that good. What I thought was interesting was a whole bunch of side characters that I wasn't expecting to make an appearance, but then a whole bunch of bigger name characters that I would have wanted to make an appearance never showed up, and that kind of was not a good thing in this at all. It was very bad. I didn't think it was a good play on DC's part. I think the one thing that the comic book did was it showed a lot of characters and did a good job of having like knowing specifically what characters were bigger players in the game and what characters were there that were mainly just there to like show that they had enough power behind these main characters. And yeah, I think where the comic book did a good job of actually showing a whole bunch of characters and being able to disperse everything out while also telling a good story, I don't think this one did. This part, along with the other two other parts, part 1 and part 2, the third part, along with the first two, I don't think did a good job overall. If you were to combine this into a giant movie, it's not that good. It's just not. I think overall, my favorite part is the middle part. And that's because it has the least amount of, it still has story in there, but it has the most amount of character interactions that I liked. That's the one part I think they actually did decently well, was the character interactions based on like the shorts that some of these characters were in, based on how they would act based off of the comic books that they're originally adapted from. Some of the stuff is good. A lot of it's not. At least it's over. So I'm giving this movie a 3 out of 10. I think I gave the first one a 2 out of 10. And I think I gave the first one a 4 out of 10. So I think overall 3.5 out of 10 for like all 3 parts combined into one movie. Let me know whether or not you agree with me or disagree with me in the comment section down below. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you next time on Galactic Reviews.